Having ADHD really sucks, and I hate it. I don't have meds, even though I'm diagnosed, because I keep forgetting to call my psychiatrist who can prescribe me a new medication, and I keep forgetting because forgetting things is a side effect of having ADHD. And every single time I remember, I can't call because I also have a chronic stress disorder, also known as anxiety, which prevents me from doing things like calling someone on the phone. I need hours and days of preparation for that. So I never end up doing it, so I never get my meds, so I never get better. It really hit me today because I was taking a philosophy exam, and philosophy, don't mind me, I have to multitask, it's Animal Crossing. What was I saying? There it is again. I was taking a philosophy exam today, and the thing about philosophy exams is that they take 90 minutes, and you have to write a lot in those 90 minutes. My exam was about critics of religion, and it had a text by Sigmund Freud. Had to read the text, and then you had to summarize the text, and then you had to compare his thesis with other philosophers' theses plural, 3 times with 3 other philosophers. And then you had to voice your own stance with an explanation. And the second part, the comparing Freud's thesis to 3 other philosophers, is worth 60% of the entire exam. And the text was very simple to understand. His viewpoint is one that I shared, but that doesn't matter yet. And I could go through number 1 really easily. You just had to summarize. I went into analysis a little bit because I can't stop myself when I'm interested in something. It's another ADHD thing, where I just get into really useless details just because they interest me personally, but they end up not meaning anything for the grand scheme of the exam or the text or whatever I'm doing. So I spent the first 50 minutes just doing number 1, which was worth 25% of the full exam. And then when I got to number 2, my motivation ran out and I couldn't focus anymore. I could string together 3 sentences before everything was gone. I did take notes while reading the text, but even my notes were short because I only remembered 2 other theses by 2 other philosophers, Nietzsche and Karl Marx. And so I had really short notes because in the end, I already knew about Nietzsche's theory, kind of, didn't care for it, don't care for the guy. I know about Karl Marx, but I care more about, Marxism than about what he thinks of God. And so I couldn't focus anymore. I couldn't put any sentences together because as soon as I was trying to begin a sentence, it slipped out of my mind and I couldn't remember how to finish it. It's really crazy to explain this to people who don't have this brain fog, I think it's called, where you can think but not about what you're meant to be thinking about at the moment. It's terrible because there's a lot of thoughts in my brain, but trying to explain them or string them together in a sentence and then writing that sentence down and making it understandable for other people is the hardest thing in the world to me. Because everything is up here, but you can't get it out because every single time I try to grab a thought, it disperses. And then my brain basically ran dry after the first 50 minutes, and I had to, since I couldn't think about number 2 anymore, the most important exercise on the entire exam, I just continued with number 3 and wrote down my stance because that's something I can do, and, points are points. I need the points. So even then, I could not tell you what I wrote down because I was still under brain fog while I was writing it. So I could essentially say the words, I largely agree, but then trying to explain why, which obviously requires a lot more sentences and a lot more thoughts to be connected to one another, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I'm pretty sure that most of the things I wrote probably sound like shit to the teacher that's going to be reading it and might not be understandable at all. And I have this problem with nearly every exam I've ever taken. But now that I know why it's like this, I used to think I was just kind of stupid or I didn't study properly, which indeed I did not study for this exam, but religion and critics to religion is a very simple topic. Everybody can say something about that. And there's nothing very super revolutionary about all the theses that, those anti-religion men have said. But I just couldn't think about anything anymore. And it really hit me in that moment that, oh, it is ADHD. Like, there was a very certain threshold that I crossed where I just couldn't properly concentrate anymore. And it's such a stark contrast because I experienced this a lot, where in the beginning of a thing, I'm sitting there and I'm speeding through it all. My pen is on fire, the paper's getting ripped, I'm getting all my thoughts out, and it's making sense. I'm saying a lot, and I'm thinking, this is going to be great. I'm going to breeze through this. This is going to be easy. And then suddenly, I take like the tiniest break because, I don't know, I stumbled over a pebble, metaphorically, in my head, and I fell down, and then it takes me like another hour to get back up, metaphorically, in my own head and start continuing the thoughts. And it's just like one of those tiny things that as soon as the flow is broken, I can't get back into it because then I've lost focus and it's all over. And medication would fix that because I can't tell you exactly how it works. But in the brain, the whole thing that causes ADHD is that there's like tiny little thingies in your brain that are supposed to touch other like things in your brain. And when they both touch, don't laugh, it's not a penis. And when they touch, that makes a thought, and that is motivation, and that keeps you concentrated on a task. But the thing with ADHD is that these little things that touch the other thing, they move too quick. They go there, and then they leave before you're done. Or your brain decides that you're done, but you aren't really, because your brain is like, this is boring, bye-bye. And that doesn't happen to people who are neurotypical, which is why neurotypical people can force themselves to focus, because their little brain thingies actually listen to them. And they say, oh, okay, I have to do this, so I'm going to be here until I'm done. But in ADHD, that's not how it works, because you literally can't force yourself to do it. Sure, some people can. If you do like a lot of training, you can't force yourself to focus. But it takes a long, long time. And if you have ADHD, starting these types of things and focusing on focusing is nearly impossible. I hate it. I wish I didn't have it. I wish I could just sit there, take an exam, and then just be done with it. But that's never how it works. And then I have to write a little apology letter if I can muster the thoughts up to my teacher and be like, I'm really sorry, I just can't. Most of the time, like, oh, it's fine, but like, that's so sad for the points because I know what I'm talking about, I just can't tell you. It sucks. Everything sucks. Well, let's hope there's something that I did right in that exam, because I flunked everything else for the past year.